Today we're going to reflect on what billionaire investor Chamath Palihapitiya had to say about which businesses are not going to be able to make it through the pandemic, as well as which leisure activities will take longest for us to resume. Welcome back, everyone. This is the second video of a series that covers some real interesting takes coming from one of my favorite people to listen to when it comes to talking about the state of the stock market, investing, and how to approach looking at businesses during these uncertain times. If you don't know Chamath, he's CEO of Social Capital, chairman of Virgin Galactic, which is a commercial spacecraft company, and he also owns the Golden State Warriors. He had a big role at AOL back in the day and was also one of the youngest executives at Facebook that really helped that company achieve a lot of great things and set them up to eventually achieve 1 billion monthly active users and later on be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, we know there are a lot of uncertainties during this economic downturn that we are facing, and there's countless businesses that are really suffering at the moment, but one of the questions that's been on people's minds is, are there businesses that won't make it? Despite all the government bailouts to small and large businesses, despite all of the direct stimulus money going to American consumers, which businesses out there will be permanently affected by what's going on and will be either forced to shut down or it will take them 1 or 2 years to get back to normal? And also, what leisure activities that we are currently missing out on because of the pandemic that are so important to our way of life, our quality of life, will take longest for us to get back to and resume again? And also, what businesses depend on these leisure activities? Let's take a look at what Chamath had to say when asked about this.
Am I going to be able to sit on the floor and it's going to be just me and you if I come out there?
I think this is a really important question we need to figure out. The reality is, in my opinion, there are certain experiences, going out to eat, going to concerts, going into large areas where you have basically anonymous interactions, essentially. So stadiums, casinos, I think, frankly, cruise ships. These are all the last things that can come online because you're taking a level of risk where you have to underwrite your own comfort. And that's not something that we've ever had to do before. You know, it's not as if when you got on an airplane, there was a 50-50 chance that something could happen. The reality is these were, 99.99999% safe. And so flying across the country was just a thing you did. But if going to see a concert all of a sudden was 50-50 or 60-40 or 70-30, for some people those risks will be okay, probably the younger you are. And the older you are, those risks shouldn't be okay, frankly. So I think that these are things that are going to be the longest things to figure out. And you're going to see some unfortunate byproducts of this. You may see college football stadiums empty for the next 2 years. Or you may see people separated, by 10 or 12 seats, what kind of an experience is that? I don't know. So I don't know the answer. I don't know what the NBA is planning to do specifically. But if you're asking me just as a person that manages risk, I wouldn't be super comfortable taking a huge risk going into, a casino floor or, going to a concert for the foreseeable future.
Wow, there was a lot of good points he just made, some that I hadn't even thought of before. I really like that phrase, anonymous interactions, because that's essentially what you're doing if you're attending a sporting event or concerts or going to a play or going to the movie theaters. You don't know the people around you or where they've been or who they've come in contact with. There will undoubtedly be people that will hesitate to go into these types of places or attend these type of events because, as Chamath puts it, you are taking a level of risk where you are underwriting your own comfort. And that is something that we've never had to do before. That is such a great quote. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard anyone put it that way before. And if this proves anything, it's that there's a lot more uncertainty to what these businesses are going to face than we can even fathom right now. The demand is just not going to be there right away. People are not going to rush to bowling alleys, to nightclubs, to bars. There was no risk of walking into a casino before, other than losing all your money, but there was no risk to your overall health. You were 99.9% safe. But now, all of a sudden, if there is a 20%, 40% chance that you're going to get infected, well, the reality is that that's going to turn a lot of people away. So that demand is just not going to be there right away. And as we've said, it is going to take time. In this next clip I'm going to show you, Chamath does an amazing job of completing a trace route for a few specific companies and really describing how a typical company spends money. He pulls back the curtain to show how, as much as you might have thought a certain company was insulated from all of this, the opposite is actually true. Let's take a look.
The best way that I think about this is just put yourself into the mindset of any company, right? So pick a great company that you've admired. So I'll pick one that I've admired for a very long time for good reason. Workday, simple example. That's a company that's basically like 10x their market cap in the 6 or 7 years they've been public, trading at an incredible valuation, cheap now. In terms of sort of like what they've done historically. But then I put myself into, and this is not to pick on Workday, but it's a perfect example of what other companies will go through, because I think this is one of the best positioned companies. So they were, before all of this craziness, going to companies, the Global 1000, and basically saying, listen, like you need to upgrade two big parts of your legacy infrastructure, right? One part is about how you do all of the human capital planning and human resources management of all the people that work for you. The second piece is how you actually count all the money that you make, your general ledger, right? And so the first product would compete against PeopleSoft. The second product competes against Oracle Financials, okay? Now, why am I telling you this story? Because it's kind of like, who cares? Boring enterprise software. Well, now you put yourself into Workday for a second and ask yourself, who are their customers today, April 1st, 2020? Well, whatever segment of their revenue came from oil and gas just went to zero, right? Oil is at 18, 19 bucks a barrel. There are a lot of very smart people that are telling you now that oil probably gets to 15, if not $10 a barrel. Some could go to zero. You've had the tar sands effectively trade to zero in Canada. You've had your first bankruptcy filing this morning when we woke up, which was a multi-billion-dollar company in the Bakken Shale in North Dakota. So if you're an oil and gas company, you're no longer thinking about your general ledger because you have no revenue. And you're no longer thinking about upgrading your HR software because you may not have any employees, right? So that whole segment stops buying. If you're an airline company or a transportation and logistics company, that whole segment has stopped buying. If you're a hospitality business, that whole segment has stopped buying. If you're in the banking sector, that whole segment has stopped buying. Now, the spectrum of decisions are different. On the one end, these companies are bankrupt. At the closest end in banking, your market cap has been shaved by 30 to 40%, which means that you have to now start and figure out how you save, from an OpEx perspective, a lot of money to basically try to get profitability in line so that you can grow out of this thing. And so decisions that you could otherwise live without, you stop. And decisions that you could otherwise stall, you stall. Now, this is for one of the best run companies in the world. So then if you take that trace route that we just did and trace route a bunch of other companies, random companies, pick a retail business. Let's take a retail business, Macy's. Okay, well, what was Macy's spending money on? Well, they were spending money on people. They just furloughed 200,000. They spent money on physical plant. They're going to stop paying their rent. They spent money on point of sale software. That's going to go to zero. They spent money on merchandise. That's going to stop. So my point is that when you start to follow the trail of breadcrumbs for any company in any sector, what I am slowly realizing is that we're a very interconnected web of businesses, and that as much as you thought you were insulated from what's happening, I tend to think that what is going on is not a sector-based drawdown in leisure, hospitality, banking, and a couple of others, but there are implications for every single business.
This last clip right here has really helped me to look at investing through a new lens. It has made me put companies through one more filter where if their model is B2B or business to business, then I'm researching their biggest customers and trying to figure out how their business is being affected, or are these struggles going to cause them to stop doing business with the company that I'm trying to invest in. And I think that's very important because, as Chamath said, we are starting to realize that essentially our economy is one big interconnected web of businesses. I mean, think about all the subscriptions that you might have, whether it's on your TV or through your laptop or apps on your phone. Just like you are paying for access to these cool and convenient services, companies are doing the same thing. They buy goods and services from other businesses that then helps them better run their own business more efficiently. And I think this is a really good investing habit, especially during these times, to dig a little deeper if you are interested in a certain investment and go down that rabbit hole and try to figure out how it's really being effective and what the long-term consequences might be for that company that you're trying to put your hard-earned money into. So to summarize, if you want to try to predict which businesses will fail or which businesses will really struggle to make a comeback, there are three main things to think about. One, the psychology involved with people being okay with the risk of going into these large public places where you are around so many people that you don't know where they've been or who they've come in contact with. Two, the government regulations of when and how to open up and the unclear social distancing guidelines that come up in terms of how many people will be allowed into a business, how far apart do they need to be, because this is not a one-size-fits-all for all businesses, meaning one business might need different social distancing guidelines than others. So how does the government come up with, or who is going to come up with a solution to social distancing guidelines that fits the specific needs of each individual business? Is it going to be up to the business owners themselves? I'm not sure. I doubt that. I mean, how would you monitor it to make sure this business owner, who is probably hanging on by a thread, won't go a little above generally accepted social distancing standards or capacity standards just to drive some extra well-needed money into their business? And three, make sure you follow the trail of breadcrumbs and do a trace route just like Chamath did in this video to get a better idea of how companies are being affected based on how their customers are being affected. And if their customers are going to cut spending and stop paying your company, then you know you have to weigh the different pros and cons because your company's sales and profits will ultimately be affected. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and feel free to subscribe to check out my next few videos on Chamath Palihapitiya. Also, let me know what you think about him and what he says in this video in the comment section below. See you next time.